what I would like you to do today is to look at it in as sort of like whatever suits you best, like a property developer, or like an architect, or like a client, right? So I want you to wander through the park in a way as if you were looking for your site, as if you were looking for where to put your playscape. So you've designed your playscape, or you have an idea of what you want people to play, yeah? And you can check out with any of those things that we see on the walk, what you would actually like best, where you want to do something. Now that has little to do with the idea of digital architecture, it has everything to do with the idea of architecture. Because when you're ready with your studies, you may go into like a corporate office, yeah? Or you have your own office. But probably you will need to make your own projects. You will need to create your own projects, which basically means that you're developing a strategy, or that you approach council with a fabulous idea, or that you approach someone like Mirvak for some potential investigation. But it's not that you would sort of stay behind and just wait for a client to come your way, because there's way too many architects out there. Yeah? So what you need to be is you need to be proactive, and that basically means just looking at the chances that are sitting out there. Yeah. So what do we see when we're looking at that park here? Can someone describe that to me? People to occupy some of these zones, because we're very far removed from the water, is that then this all becomes a fountain that pops up at particular rhythms. So that would be fully populated with people. Yeah, children playing through, half-naked, running through, getting really wild, being... So what you would also see is, and of course, I mean, this is COVID, no one is here, yes, I'm tap dancing it sort of up for you. Yeah, you would see the families all alongside these sites here. This is the most multicultural park, as David had discussed, because all different nationalities would come. So there's 30 nationalities that are living in any of those towers here. And I told some people before, there's 5,000 people who call that actually their home, this whole area here. Yeah. So there's lots of childcare centers, there's people who use these parking spots, but when they come here, and also people obviously from different parts of Sydney come here, yeah, you would see all different nationalities, and of course you would see what they eat. So that would be sort of like the most fantastic world banquet here, where people bring their national food stuff, right? What they also do have here, which I found interesting, is not only do they have recycling trash, but they also have recycling for the burning coals, because people tend to bring their own grills there. Yeah. The other thing that you don't see is the heavy electric lines. When the Sydney Olympia was going on, all of that was sort of embedded with power lines. So all that sits beneath the park structure, which basically means when you have a management plan for these electric lines, you can also pump up in electricity. Yeah, so for the people who want to think about sort of recreational furniture with a plug-in, so that you can load your iPhone, because these batteries don't really hold that long anymore. Yeah, then you can sort of plug yourself in here. But this is what you see. Yeah, so this is just this very, you were saying sort of like a linear direction. That's one park strategy. Yeah, and everything follows that. Very square with the top like a key icon here at the end point in order to show where the end point is. Yeah, with the sort of fountain at the other end, and so basically space is conducted between these 2 points. That's the way how you span it up, and then everything follows that particular line, which is why we can recognize it so fast. Yeah, so the trees on the side, or within one line, or within the same distance. Yeah, particular species of trees that all need to be the same in order to create that aspect here. Yeah. So look at it from the architect's eye. Look at it as if it wasn't there, or as if you would describe it so that you can sort of make it into something like that. What would need to be the prompts for a landscape architect in order to make that according to what you want? Now let's have a look at that side. What do you see? A what? A swamp? Yes. Nice. Thank you. That wouldn't have been the first thing to point out. Yes. Okay, what else? What are the elements of this park here? Obvious. Come on. Sculpture, yeah. Stone circle, yeah. bit of nothing in between. Yeah. Okay. So maybe some of the things that you don't see would be the dimensions of a football field or a soccer field. That gave the understanding for how long this would need to be. Yeah. So that people can potentially play in it. Yeah. I mean, I think this is something that is funny to me because that reminds me of sort of the goal circle. Yeah, that you would have if you would put a soccer goal in there. But of course, it's sort of, in a way, this becomes very surrealist because then you can't play into the field anymore, into the goalpost. Yeah. So, but if I'm looking at that, the reason why the sculpture at the back end is so attractive is because you want to move there. Yeah. So again, it's all about directionality, how you span up this temporal field, how you make it accessible, or how you coax people, or sort of tease them into going to the points where you would want them to go. Yeah. And this one here is also interesting because it has so very little elements. Yeah, so you really don't need that much. You need that field of green, you need a bit of shade on the grass, you have very clear lines that describe that field. Yeah? You have things that will be there a long time, yeah, such as the stone, so very high quality stone markers that are cut here, that make the bounds. Yeah? You have a very hard tectonic that sits over there, the circle on which the sculpture can stand. Why is that important? With the stone circle, hey. Yeah? No, looking at you. Yeah, you're looking away. No, I'm just happy to see my people. Yeah. That's important because of the Sydney rain. We had on the weekend, I think, for people listening to the news, we had a month's worth in 3 hours of rain coming down. The moment when you have the rain on that grass, yeah, the ground starts to move, yeah, so it all gets very wet and it all gets very sort of moving. So the moment when you put in a base like that, yeah, that sculpture is not going to tilt and not going to slide down that hill, yeah. So some of the things that you will need to do is a ground preparation for the games that you're playing, whatever your play is, whatever your tectonic is, yeah. So that some things may be more permanent, yeah, and subtle. And some things then, like the sculpture, you could replace that sculpture. So if I wanted to play Sydney Biennale here, I would just take down the sculpture and have like a point there every year. Yeah. Okay. But again, and then maybe the last thing about this one here is the geometry. The reason why this looks friendly is because it's all based on these two very simple primary circle geometries. Yeah. Okay. Look at some of the other stuff as well. And something that we never talk about as architects, which also has nothing to do with the idea of digital architecture, but maybe is this pattern here. The beauty of this pattern, can someone tell me what the beauty of this pattern is? The covering, the tiling, what's so fantastic about it? Exactly, yeah, so it basically means the water can go into the ground and you're not creating, so it's not creating overflooding, yeah? Would even be better if there's something really nice happening here with the green inside. Yeah. So if you looked at something as simple as that pattern from a digital perspective, yeah, you would make it trickle out. Yeah. So that you would have sort of some meeting point between the grass and the tiles. Okay. So you can't just put something here, but so you need to go into the ground at least a meter or so. If you do that with a steel profile and just ram it in, you can build up on that. Yeah, so just thinking through architecturally how you would place something here in a temporal manner. Yeah, because you wouldn't. And the other thing is also when we'll be back at the very end, these will be covered. So there's that would be like a shadow space here. Yeah. We're just looking for opportunities where to do something. I don't know if people have if you guys have started thinking around how to play actually, or if we are still on the level of installation. Yeah, I think some people understand, or I know that with the modules, and so it would be good to think it through from the idea of occupancy. Yeah, so I know we want to design, we do that all the time. Yeah, so but it wouldn't need to be, you would need to explain it in such a manner that how people are actually interacting with your structures. Yeah, so you wouldn't just design a bench. Yeah. But you would show how someone on a bench can sit. And if you're good, you're showing how a couple of people sit on that bench, or how that bench could be used for other purposes than just that. Yeah, so if I could flip the back of that bench, I could actually lie on it. Yeah? If I could sort of pull the tent up, then I could use the bench in order to lie there for longer. Yeah, but talking about this space here, so the classic thing, why do people want to come outside? Yeah? And what do they do when they're outside? Because normally we need to have some sort of occupancy. Yeah, so you either do gardening, yeah, or you do selling like markets, yeah, or you do sports. People in Sydney do that, yeah, or you play. So one way that the French are doing in terms of playing is play boule. So you bring your 6 balls or your 3 balls, and then you sort of, that would be perfect for this one here. Some of you might also know this Viking game, the one with the sticks that seems to be quite hip at the moment. Does anyone have that? No? So it's basically the same. You place the, it's like bowling, basically outdoor bowling. You place the sticks and then you just try to basically hit them. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that with the playscape we are going towards mental health. That's the real background of the project. I think I've written that somewhere. Yeah. So people spend some time outside with whatever occupancy that keeps them outside for like 2 hours, so that they get enough oxygen and that they're healthy. Vitamin D. Vitamin D, exactly. Off Zoom. More oxygen. Yeah? So today is all about sort of not being within your grasshopper file and not being within your laser cutting or 3D printing file, but it's all about in your brain going through and checking against your fabulous modules or against your origamis or against your weaving. Yeah? How does that actually work in the spaces that, how the concepts that I have designed and with the little models that I have designed, how does that actually relate to the body? Yeah? So how is it, like, can we sort of blow that up? Yeah? And how, what are good spaces for, because we have the choice. Yeah? So you can make a good project by finding, having a good project and then finding the good side that complements it. Okay, let's keep walking. I think we'll be late otherwise. A bit, slightly. But, oh, and I didn't tell you the best thing. Sorry, I was so fancy. So all the trees that you see here, they were brought here. All these trees here were also brought here. But so some of these trees have been moved a couple of times. So even trees that are as big as that. Yeah, so these fig trees. The next year the trunk, and then they move it. And they move it actually, the bigger ones, they actually have moved 10 meters. So it's quite fabulous how they move these living beings. My wow moment when I heard that you can do something like this. Okay. Points that you can occupy, such as, so you can't go into that landscape here, yeah, but you can go into that landscape and sit there, yeah. So in a way it's a park that has the purpose of being visually accessible, but not being accessible by physical bodily motion, yeah. Okay, so I mean, of course you go in here and you just think, okay, this is nicely occupied, what's actually happening with that one, yeah? We're not going to build it, but you could think about as this being a site that you just enter with the... And if you're here, I mean, I've traveled big, but so this reminds me a lot about yeah, so it has a very proper feeling of Rotterdam, so a bit dirty, but a lot of infrastructure lines that lead, like the train here, and then the bike path, and then the movement path to that subway here. Yeah? Now, in regards to the subway, that what you see here, that field, that's also a field that we can play on. So we spoke with David Martin, and they would be happy to do something that would, if you're dealing in the area of modules, prefabricated this is where you go.
Oh, look, the water's coming.
Let's move through here.
Hi, Gabby.
Hi,
How are you? Did you have a good weekend?
What do you think of it so far?
I like it. I think it's very interesting, but it's very sparse.
Yeah,
I think there's so much room for
it feels quite artificial.
humans.
It is
Yeah,
artificial, but
but it's also the wrong
Okay,
language.
and again, sort of this here can be expanded towards the stone walls. Yeah. So again,
Thanks, Gabby.
this is owned by, behind the walkthrough, that's owned by Sydney Olympic Park. This doesn't belong to them, even though it visually connects. Yeah. So this is Mirwak, and this is Mirwak as well. Yeah, the little park that sits there on that side. So at some moments you find that it's not so cohesive. Yeah? Or the design language doesn't carry on like this. And that's then because the ownership is quite unclear at some point. Do you know what this is? Stop is right. What? Yes. No, it's not anti-terrorism. It's just like because this here, this pavement is like super unclear. Because it actually looks like, particularly when you come from there, so you would automatically assume that you could drive in here. Which is why they had to put this up, because the cars were landing down there. Oh my God. Which is not a good thing.
did they actually?
Yes. On the one side by the Brick Pit Park, which is this one, and on the other side by, I think, a Stony Cultural Center, whatever, so it's two. A third one is still going to be built, one of those buildings here. And those are the trees that I talked about that have been brought here to the side, and the last one is the one that has been built. They decided to build this other one. This is Durbach Block Jaggers, yeah. So the reason why it sits there is that there's a frog biotope underneath, which basically means they couldn't do any other touching the ground of it. And that's also the reason why we see that fence here, so that people wouldn't access or throw stuff into that domain. Yeah, because there's not only landscaping here in this park, but there's also quite a lot of species in here. So in fact, it's super astonishing that so close to Sydney, in fact, directly as part of Sydney, we have these huge biotopes where different species are actually living, breathing, etc. Yeah?
What's in the water?
In the water? No, it's not about what's in the water. It's the frogs.
Oh.
So it's named, the whole, like whatever you see here in the pit, that's not accessible to people unless you book a tour, yeah, but it's frogs. And so I think there's a sort of a preservation agenda that goes on. Which is why at Durbach Block they wanted to have like a little plateau that reaches out onto that, so that you could stand here and look down, and they prevented that. Yeah. But for us the interesting point is also, can you think about your playscape as something that is actually not, like a multi or humans and guinea pigs or goose, or sort of the wildlife that sits here. Yeah. And the thing about this, it's super reverse. So you might do like a park that actually has a space where you don't go. Yeah. For like a particular reason, because you have your butterfly landscape there, or so forth. Yeah. So all of these games are allowed.
So the bridge is it accessible?
You can, I think someone has been moving here. I think you see them over there walking. So you walk alongside that side, then you go onto that bridge, and then you can sort of move out again. You can do that after we've been going to the end, because then the next station is just the Armory, so we have a bit of time. It's like a postmodern park, right? And it's like Jacaranda Square. So you have super urban on that side, and then you have complete wildlife on the other side. So it's a bit of a, yeah. Stop. Okay, and I hadn't said, so one of the things that we wanted to try maybe was to have you produce your modules. Yeah, we prefabricate it in the DMAF, pack it in a van and unload it here and then play with it. Yeah, so just keep sort of some of these lines into account. I want to do something on that tattoo. Eddie, did you talk to multi-species?
Multi-species?
Yeah, did you insert that? Did you talk about the frogs?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just as an idea, you can think about your playscape or your game structure as something that only one plays.
Thanks.
But you can also think about it as a multi-species environment. Because the reason why we're sitting here is because right? So it's of course it's not only the frogs, but it's a multitude of other species that are part of the same equation. Yeah? So, and again, I'm saying that the reason why we're so absolutely happy with the Olympic Park is that of course we're playing digital studio, but it's so much more than just digital studio. Yeah? If you want to take on the agenda, please be our guest. If you want to take on the sustainability issues, be our guest. Things with playscaping is we're not the only ones who are occupying this. Yeah? So biodiversity, if you want to play the dance team, Digital studio never does anything more than just gives you some techniques and some methods. Yeah? But that's, with a method no one has won anything. Yeah? So it's much more important the ideas that you devise, which are then expressed through some methods. Yeah? But as we are architects, these are larger agendas that we're dealing with. Yeah, so we're more happy to talk about, sort of how the frog came and here, and you built that plateau, and then you had your picnic without you sort of played with the frogs, or I don't know what things or the bats, or what happened with the fig trees, and then you move some parts of the fig trees, and then you do a simulation, or you move the fig trees, and then again, that's digital. Yeah. Then another way to sort of play the digital game is to. And I'm just thinking you may come back here at some stage, probably before we're hitting the final, not necessarily for interim, but to be able and to just scan some of this here and then to take it as a departure point. Yeah. And so even scanning just sort of some parts of it or some things that you find interesting. At the armory there'll be more stuff that's more interesting to scan. Yeah. Then that gives you a scan that is the departure point for you to build on your digital model. So we never talk properly about that, but the tools and processes that we give you, they're very large as palettes, yeah. And again, we've said that a couple of times. You don't necessarily need to use all of them, yeah. Better to use one really well, so that it makes sense for the project that you're developing, yeah. And so this is why the whole bandwidth. Yeah, and we talked about the band, so some of them, when we were setting up the project, I sort of had this idea in mind that we would sort of prefabricate some of the modules and then go out with COVID and do all the stuff. And we're sort of very non-safe environment here, obviously, but it's good. But the point is that we can sort of prefabricate and then build the stuff with enough. Yeah, put the stuff in a van and put our I'm going to say sculptures, pavilions, interactions, thingies out there. Yeah? And to play for a day and take photographs and then bring everything. And maybe the last point is the idea of virtuality. And that you use that as a tool. So that was my project. And this is just an illustration. I would probably do something somewhere around here, and then I would do like a virtual reality bit that would move me 5 meters out there, so I could sort of then remotely look at the thing. All you would need to do for that would need to sort of build up the topography here you see. Yeah, here, and once you read that, you can sort of move with the trajectory, and then you can inhabit a space in the air, yeah, that you couldn't inhabit otherwise. Or what you could do is you could sort of identify somewhere where people would actually sit. We talked about how you need to think through how people occupy these spaces actually. Yeah? So imagine you would be sitting here and we would sort of see like a canopy that actually shows half of that area here covered. Or that would allow us to sort of project how the space would look like in 2050 with stuff being built here and then with more sort of rigid things covering over here. I should say that it was very large. So with the virtuality again, that's the sort of case of one of the doors that you can go through or you pass through the studio. Yeah? It's really more up to you guys to sort of find your passion and the sort of most bizarre idea that you can, or the most beautiful idea, or something that you always wanted to do, or something that's your secret passion in order to twist the studio in the way that you need it. Big as that, yeah, that locks in and anchors your project to the sky. Yeah, so which then in that case makes no sense because you can't do it in a simple numerical way. Yeah. And for that it might be nice to sort of test that before we actually do it. But it's an open part so we can.
Yeah. So my point was really just take lots of photographs and do some burst photographs of some things you're interested in so you can test the program. If you're deciding not to come out here again, you want to get as much documentation today as possible.
That's alright. I'll stop.
Oh yeah, no, I thought so. Yeah, no, that's cool. That's nice. Yeah. Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. It was not really at the forefront of my mind. Yeah, so I completely forgot it. But I think Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. So I think what I do is I just basically have a look at the calendar and then basically let you know occupies. Yeah, a couple of days and then we can see how it fits then. Yeah? Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for part of it.
It's for listed.
This would be acceptable.
Yeah. It's gonna be beautiful at night time. Do you want an apple?
No, I'm fine. Yeah, I
You sure?
Yeah.
So what I've
Thanks,
done
I'm
is
very kind. Oh, look at this here.
I'll
Oh my,
continue.
look at this here, how the water travels.
I know, I
over
was
that.
looking,
That
I
is
said that's
amazing.
beautiful.
Oh, look at the birds here.
Look at the edges.
Oh my
Look at those
God.
edges. The
That
rocks.
is so cool. Look at how they're
know.
diving through that.
That's parametric.
That's super parametric.
What I've done is I'm continuing recording and I'm noting as I go. So I've got all the steps walking across the bridge and the sound is actually linked to each of those descriptions.
Yeah, nice. Oh my, look at this. Yeah. Look how look at the birds, how the birds travel. There's no movement of water, no like a pool or in some of the I think it's the water between so it's probably
The works was designed and built around 1914, and there were 10 Hoffman kilns in those days, and they were very cramped. 2 were eventually demolished to make a bit more room. In those days they used horses and drays.
우리가 라운드 가가지고 우리가 처음에 저 라운드 가가지고 브렉시트에 대하면 요거 저거라고 워터뷰 요렇게
Turn right.
And if you don't want to come back, maybe also do the photo burst. Yeah, do you know how photo burst works?
My phone's run out of battery.
Yeah.
So what are we photo bursting? The buildings or?
Yes. So only to see what if you want to do something between the building and the landscape.
But you have to go all the way around the building.
No, yeah, yeah, probably. Or you just sort of go stand in and then sort of do this.
I thought that corridor space was great.
Because when you put
talking about the corridor space. I mean, of course, you're also very welcome. We have the map here. That you just basically make it up, roughly model the
on the topography map.
Yes.
I will do.
So you can do that, or for your purposes, or we can talk about yours separately. But so depending where it goes, you can also take in between the buildings and the landscape, or between just the larger area.
Correct.
Yeah, so, but you guys, I'll be hanging here until 4 o'clock basically, so that you can sort of, what I wanted to do was basically very quickly catch up on what you've been doing. Then you go and check out in peace what you find interesting, yeah? And then we have a catch up before 4, yeah? So that we can see where you want to place it approximately. And then I think you probably still have to come back one more time, either before interim or after interim, yeah? So the way I see interim is having all your ducks started. Yeah, it doesn't mean that all the ducks are in the row yet. Yeah. So it just means that you have a couple of ideas and a couple of the beginnings of the geometry and what material you want to work with. Yeah. And for you guys, I showed you this here. I want you guys to play with this here for the weaving.
Did you get that from Bunning?
Yes. So if you hold that. Okay, Aria, hold this here. Yeah. Okay. Turn it around so you're the nail. So you can do the nail like this. Yeah. Or you can do the nail like this. Or you can do the nail, obviously the nail like that. Yeah. And then you could sort of take this. And then you can sort of take it back. But I want to, because the topography is so nice here at the moment, yeah. So I want 3 people to spin it a couple of times like a oversized cat's cradle thing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then maybe do someone photographs on top with a couple of different configurations. Because I think there's something about the spinning and the laying down the materials that you can set up.
Sorry, the spinning.
I call that like weaving in between. So you can weave between the buildings. You can weave between columns that you build up, which you build up in the landscape. But so the idea would be, it's almost like this sort of escape room where you go into the room. But with this one here, you could almost go, like you give people this, and they get it at the cafe, right? So they get 4 of those, and then they can spin, and you just give them where the anchor points are. So it's just one idea to, and then of course you can do way more than that because you also have your structure.
Because I think, well, at least our idea is the anchor points are going to be the structures, not so much the people.
Yeah, I know, but you need the people in order to deposit.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I just need to, and this is why I brought that. I needed to bring this to you because this is a one-on-one material.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I needed you to, in your brain, to change from doing the wool threads towards what is this here, yeah? So that's a fine hook, yeah? That's a good hook.
Yeah.
That's a good hook. Yeah, so we're talking about dimensions, understanding dimensions and what you can do with them. So the way to, what I would do probably, just as a trial, we can play that when we are there. So there are these brick structures, yeah, which are the doorways.
Yeah.
So between the 5 of you, you can place people there,
Yeah.
or you place 4 people and then have one mover in between that stands where the arches. So the person is relative to the archway.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a couple of games that you can play, but I just wanted you to try that. Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about what you have, and I'll eat my ice cream. My ice cream. Yeah, you can do it. That doesn't matter if you get it. You can completely unwind it. Alright. An overview, this map here with crosses where you think that you and how you want to use it.
Okay.
Yeah, but you have this map. That map sits.
Yeah,
on
I've got it here.
Yeah.
It's this
Are you waiting for me?
I'm going to just cycle around.
Yeah.
Until I come back in like 15 minutes.
15 minutes, I think, is good. Huh? Are we 15 minutes? 5 minutes.
Okay, cool.
Okay, super.
I think I might get a size that big so I can work and draw on it.
I think the thing about these ones, particularly for you, but maybe also for you guys, is really I would even maybe blow up some of these pieces here. Yeah, we tend to love maps, which is why we never draw into that. Yeah. So my original idea had been to, sort of let you draw here where you see that things can happen. But you can also do that and bring that for next week. The other thing is that this is something about dimensions, so you can sort of weave in here, but then you can weave over this whole field. Or, and this is actually super interesting, what would happen if you would sort of start to weave, make like a large, because you can throw, right? Or you can take you could even with this one here, we can think this as being like a landscape maker, like a larger installation maker. Sorry, but I keep spinning. You tell me what you want to do. Oh, I want to see that. Yes, yes, yes.
Bye.